Hey, Counter-Strike, Vu here. What makes a clutch? Well, first we need to understand not all clutches are created equal. Obviously. However, the extent is not quite so obvious. I'm going to show you a round here where Mousesports win a 2v4 in which at all points they have an advantage. And like a cold open, for this round we're going to start where it gets interesting. First, in fast motion or regular speed. Karrigan grabs a kill, Crims gets the double trade, and Frozen from the 2v4 will turn it into a 2v3 and stop hammer time. This is where Fnatic no longer have an advantage, partially because Mousesports play it out perfectly, and partially because of positioning and other things involved. Now, if we go back and play that one back a bit slower, you can really understand what happened. So if we go back to the beginning here and break it down, the key player here is Brawlin. Brawlin is controlling this entire area towards top middle, and he's controlling it with help from Crims as well. However, once Crims gets hurt and Brawlin falls, their entire control of the front portion of the outer bomb site is completely dismantled, and that puts Mousesports in a very good spot. So when you see Karrigan go through here, him killing Brawlin is the key piece to them winning this 2v4. He'll fall, Crims trades, and JW will make a play that really begins in the 4v3. He thinks it's an execute because that's what Mousesports is showing, and he tries to nade through and support his team by going through the smoke. However, unfortunately for him, on the other side of that smoke is Frozen with a Krieg in hand, who will quickly find the kill. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, but Vu, was this really a 2v4 if Frozen picked up what is essentially a trade kill? And if you're thinking that, you're kind of understanding step number one in this process and the idea that not all clutches are created equal. However, if you go into the HLTV page, which I may not really recommend, you're going to see people talking about a 2v4 because not only was this literally a 2v4, but JW was not necessarily traded. Although the play he made began in the 4v3 in my eyes, it wasn't a kill on Crims, which would have been a literal trade. So now you've got a 2v3 here for Mousesports that at all times seems to be in their advantage. And the reason for that is Mousesports play smart. They do not show the bomb, and they have Frozen slow it down a little bit when he gets the initial kill, which forces Flusha to play honest. He has to assume that Mousesports could be going back over towards inner. Crims on 10 health, and he was also primarily smoked off here towards Ivy shortly beforehand, knows that he can't really play it standard because at long range, especially against Kriegs, the odds are if they peek into him, they'll hit him at least once and find a freebie of a kill. Golden is stuck here towards Old Bomb, and you might be thinking, why doesn't he rotate over towards Ivy to get some more aggressive control? However, that is a risk in and of itself, and someone could, and in this case is, staring down at that angle ready to kill him. So really, Fnatic have very little control of anything. All they have is this angle covered, inner covered, and T-spawn covered, which gives Mousesports all the control in the world to go grab a free bomb plant and play out the 2v3 with the bomb planted that can kind of be thought of as an extra player because it's the pressure on the counter-terrorists. To top it all off, Crims was a little bit telegraphed in his play here. Because Crims was at Green Train and they know he's somewhat low health, and he absolutely disappeared for about 30 seconds. The idea that he could be rotating and flanking around is pretty clear in Frozen's mind. He'll simply hold the angle, Crims will walk into it, there's the kill for Frozen, and now they play out the 2v2, Rops will grab the trade, and the round is essentially done and dusted. So that's a round where Mousesports, it was a 2v4, however, At all points in that 2v4, at the very least after they found the kill on JW, they were in the advantage to close that one out. So although this one will say a 4v2, and if you look just at the frags, you may think that this was a round thrown by Fnatic, the positioning of Mousesports compared to the positioning of Fnatic set them up to win this round very easily. So the previous clutch was a lot about map control, positioning, and this idea that a numbers advantage needs to kind of lock in. And that means that just because you have a 4v2 for a moment doesn't mean that you really can act on it until you can reposition and reset, and your opponents no longer have pressure and knowledge of your exact position. Otherwise, it's not really quite the same as just a base 4v2. Your opponents have some sort of advantage back right at you. And in this one, Team Liquid know Woxic is CT, Rops is window, and Frozen is ladder, and likely they're aware that Karrigan is the B player. So you can question yourself, do Liquid win this round? What advantages do they have? Well, really, they don't have many advantages to speak of, except for the knowledge that Frozen is in ladder and nobody is pushed up on A. That's actually quite a bit of important information. That does in fact mean that the likelihood of Rops still being in window or jungle is fairly high, and you see Nitro, he's waiting for Frozen to make a mistake here. They know Frozen unlikely to actually try to push out of ladder through catwalk. So Nitro catches a frag there on Rops, knowing that he's very likely to be in window, because otherwise, is he stacking CT? Doesn't make much sense. Is he stacking market? Doesn't make much sense either. So he's still in window. Nitro checks the angle. Smart play from Nitro, not a gimme of a frag at all. And, this is an all clutches are not created equal. This is still not an advantage in any way for Team Liquid, and they really should probably not have a chance to win this one. However, that kill does change some things in that they know that Woxic is the only player in CT, and that they can try to isolate that CT player and take down any rotate as well. They recognize that any rotate from Mousesports is also going to be coming through CT, so they try to execute onto both of them, not worried too much about making noise, just trying to make sure that they can get there and trade out, and that's exactly what they're going to do. Nitro hits a couple of nice shots, and the one thing you notice as they were doing that is that they were isolating themselves from Frozen on catwalk. They never gave Frozen a real angle to shoot them in the back as they dealt with the players in CT, and the rest of the clutch does not go quite as well as the beginning of the clutch. So in fact, if you said they lose this one, you were double correct in that they really should have lost this one from the jump. And also they do technically lose this one, even though they get into the 1v1, which is very much winnable. So the previous clutch was a lot about individual play and putting themselves in situations to get aim duels if possible. This one is another 2v4 here on the B bomb site. And to give you some information, they obviously know where Woxic is, and they know that Rops is rotated out through connector, but they don't really know much else. So do they win this one? Well, this is a very tough one, but the thing working in their favor is the amount of chaos here for Mousesports and the limited information they have as to the actual locations of Liquid's players. They're not really sure where either player is. They could already be at bench, and Mousesports is desperately trying to get out to the back of the bomb site to contest. However, in a 4v2, they really could probably try to back off and play on the retake, but backing off is not really a realistic possibility because Woxic is already pushed up and Rops is already pushed out, which means they have to force through with all of their players to try to continue to contest, and they're not in the greatest spots to actually do that. So Liquid actually have a very strong chance to get things done if they can land their shots, and Elige will start it. Woxic goes for the repeat, a bit over aggressive there from Woxic, and once Woxic dies, that's when things get pretty hectic. That's when it feels like Liquid may even have an advantage because it's a 2v2 here for Mousesports, and they're trying to force in, and Liquid knows that Mousesports was kind of forced to try to force in. So Naf will find one more, and now we're into the 2v2. Chris J reconsidering his own situation, but not much he can really do, and Frozen trying desperately to cover the bomb, but Liquid, being Liquid, Elige is going to hit that shot, and from there, this one is essentially over. So you can see a lot of differentiation between the way these 2v4s have played out. The first one was a quick trade back into a positional advantage. The second one was just individual play. And this third one was a lot about the chaos that is created in getting into the 4v2. A lot of the time, the position you get yourself into getting into that 4v2 can make it quite tough to play out of the 4v2. And that's where we saw Woxic. He had found 3 kills on the round, but he felt pressured to recheck this left side or right side on the minimap of the bomb site to make sure nobody was swinging on him. His teammates were essentially forced to make their way out into a very awkward spot to try to support Woxic and make sure he wouldn't just die, especially as they were smoked off not only in window, but at doorway. And by forcing out to try to support him, they put themselves in awkward spots, and once he died, they started getting picked off. So really, the chaos in terms of positioning there and attempting to support their teammates put themselves into a spot where the 2v4 was winnable for Liquid. So you can really see between the 3 of these, the drastic differences between what clutches really play like versus what they seem like on paper. And you can use this type of information, this knowledge, to help yourself analyze games or to help yourself play out your own clutch situations. Recognize the advantages, recognize when you can trap a player in a location and get a trade, even if it's a bit later, even if it's 10 seconds, 15 seconds later, as long as they're trapped into the angle, you can still think of it as a trade, and you can try to use the limited knowledge you have of your opponent's positions to give yourself chances into these clutches. And even in the second clutch where I said it was a lot about individual play, the one thing they did very well is they had Frozen trapped in towards ladder, and they made sure to use that information to their advantage and work with it in some way, shape, or form. So anyways, thanks for watching, and I hope this helped. Hey, that was a great single, actually 3 rounds of Counter-Strike. I bet the whole game was fantastic. Maybe Vu has done a VOD breakdown of it. Oh, he did? On his Patreon that you can subscribe to for not that much money, but would definitely help him out. You should check that out. Vu releases a video every week of a VOD breakdown that I can request my own game. I can request any pro game I want, and Vu might do it. Wow, I bet that costs a lot of money. Only $5? What? That seems crazy. Patreon.com/VuCSGO. Whoa, Vu releases a video once a week over there, a quote-unquote exclusive, unreleased Patreon video. Oh my. Patreon.com/VuCSGO. Sell out all the way.